All right, let's talk about these playoff rankings,
Please.
We do have a new set of rankings, Dan Rubenstein.
Yes, we do.
Number 1, 2, and 3 are unchanged. Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M. After that, it starts to look a little bit different than it did a week ago. Georgia at 4, Texas Tech up 1 to number 5, Ole Miss up 1 to number 6. Your Oregon Ducks up 1 to number 7. Oklahoma up 3 to number 8. Notre Dame holding steady at number 9. Alabama drops 6 to number 10. Then we've got BYU at 11, Utah at number 12, the Miami Hurricanes at number 13, and Vandy at number 14. I should also mention, just in advance of some of our picks here that we're going to give a short while from now, USC at number 15, Georgia Tech at number 16. Dan, you got any immediate reaction?
No, and should point out, Alabama's down 6 after their loss. Texas down 7 after their loss. We've got a bunch of teams, and I always try to pay attention to this as well, in that like almost 18 to 25. This week it's 20 to 25, which the the jaded person might call like resume boosters, right? Like, oh, this team, okay, interesting that they affect the resumes of these top 15 teams, but there's no real clear case for them to be ranked over any other team, and vice versa, to be clear. And when you look at teams like Mizzou, Illinois, there's sort of shaky cases in some of these situations. How do I feel about this? There's little wiggle room for Oregon, it seems. There's little wiggle room for BYU, it seems. These teams are going to have to win out, and because the number of 2-loss teams that could stay at 2 losses, like Vanderbilt, which would have a pretty big win over Tennessee in a couple weeks. USC winning out would be a win over Oregon this week. There's those wiggle room situations. The explanation from the committee about some of these situations, that they were just like grouping 1-loss teams, but not BYU. BYU has played a good schedule this year. It hasn't always been the strongest way of beating teams, but their non-conference schedule, while not amazing, played Stanford and ECU in contention for the American as we record this. I don't know. I think BYU got a little bit of a short shrift there. The way they talked about like grouping those teams, you're just like, nobody made you group 1-loss teams together. Nobody made you group 2-loss teams or undefeated teams together. You can just sort of figure out who's stronger than who based on the results. I didn't love how much conversation was around Florida State, Alabama, and Notre Dame, Miami, because I am of the mind that you should include those things as data points, but to a lesser extent. Week 1 specifically, I would include, I would say Miami's win over Notre Dame is impressive and a great data point on their resume, but it's not as impressive as a team with a big win 2 weeks ago. That's just where I stand on these things. And I think it should be held against Alabama that they lost to Florida State, but not like a team that lost 2 weeks ago to a bad team or an underwhelming team or an average team that's looking to compete. So I wish that conversation would be had, but I understand that's a subjective way of looking at this when they're trying to present as many objective data points as possible. I know you have thoughts about who you think is and isn't good, that you just think a team is better. Right now, I don't have huge objections to a lot of this. I know Miami fans are like, we're 8-2, Notre Dame's 8-2, we beat them. But I am still of the mind when I look at these rankings that you should both look at head-to-head and look at resumes in their totality. And the reality is Notre Dame lost to 2 really good teams, and Miami lost to a Louisville team that's, I think, pretty good, and lost to an SMU team on the road that's also pretty good.
Sure.
But not in these conversations at the top in the way that Notre Dame's losses are.
They're different.
And so there's a difference.
Losses. Yeah, and by the way, they have Miami again on this bracket. This week, though, they had the wherewithal to label it. That
yes, I
they
saw
were
that.
putting them in as a placeholder for the ACC champion, which, again, there's only a 5.6% chance that Miami could win the ACC. But they are the highest-ranked ACC team, so for now they are the placeholder, which I understand.
Yes.
If you are a Miami fan, though, it is a math problem. There is a serious math problem that is working against you, because if you look at this field, the way that they've laid it out, I would say about 7 of the 12 teams are basically locked in at this point. And it's a near certainty that the winner of the ACC and whoever they put in as the G6 representative will both be outside the top 12, which means if you want to get in, you got to find a way into that top 10. So they need to root for two of Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Alabama, BYU to take a loss one of these next 2 weeks. They also need SMU and Pitt to win this week to set them up for maybe a ranked game against Pitt to close out the year, to boost that loss to whatever extent that they had earlier in the year against SMU to make that look better. There is also the possibility now that they could get jumped by another 2-loss team. I haven't heard a whole lot of people talk about this, but USC has Oregon this week. If USC beats Oregon on the road, pretty good chance USC is going to jump up into that conversation in a way that they aren't right now. Vandy still plays a ranked Tennessee team. That's a good game. Michigan still plays number 1 Ohio State. By the way, they've got a 4-game winning streak against Ohio State.
They do. I just rewatched Michigan Northwestern. I'm feeling even less confident about Michigan in this moment. But
Fair enough, but you understand my point.
Yes, I do.
You understand my point. So Miami is kind of caught in the wash right now in a bit of no man's land with what they've got remaining on their schedule and what the teams in front of them have on theirs, what some of the teams behind them have on theirs. And this is not me arguing for or against Miami. I think it's fairly well established that I am not objective when it comes to the whole Miami versus Notre Dame conversation. What I will say is objectively, it is not just a Miami versus Notre Dame conversation. There are many other teams in front of the Canes, rightly or wrongly, whatever you believe. That is the issue that they are currently dealing with, and we'll find out. Maybe Snake on the Toilet Saturday can give Miami a little bit of a gift and bite one of their opponents. Who knows? Here are some of the other things that I would posit.
Please.
One, I didn't think they'd have the stones to put Bama behind Notre Dame. Like, I thought for sure that they would move Oklahoma up into the top 10. That does not surprise me. But I expected that they would move Bama down to 9 and bump Notre Dame down a peg. I am taking this as a signal that Notre Dame is in so long as they don't lose to either Syracuse or Stanford.
Right.
Like, if they were going to drop Notre Dame to make room for Alabama, that would be a pretty good tell that maybe Notre Dame is on some uncertain ground. I don't think they're going to do that for a Big 12 team or even Miami at this point.
Right.
So I feel pretty good as a Notre Dame fan that they're going to find their way into this thing. The other thing that I would add is something that you brought up earlier. Like, again, a bunch of these teams feel kind of locked into me at this point. But the bracket, which I will talk through just very quickly in a second, is very much subject to change. So, like, if you're a Texas Tech fan, Texas Tech could very easily end up with a first-round bye.
Yeah.
The way that this is set up. Right now, they're 5. I actually think your Oregon Ducks have a lot of upside. They could slide up a spot. They could get a number 6 seed, and that's very important because you'd much rather be a 6 playing against whoever wins the ACC, having them travel cross-country to Eugene, than where it stands right now, which is Oregon at home hosting Alabama.
Yeah. It could be SMU, I guess, right?
Could be SMU.
That's
right?
not as far a trip, yeah.
It could be SMU. It could be Georgia Tech. It could be Pitt. Could still be Duke. Could still be Miami. Most of those teams are traveling a great ways across the U.S. of A. Certainly, it is not a short flight even for SMU if they end up being the team. But this is all to say right now your projected lines. I saw this courtesy of our friend Josh Pate, who posted this from FanDuel, I believe. Projected lines would be number 12, Tulane, who they have in here right now, on the road at Texas Tech. Texas Tech would be favored by 3 touchdowns. Notre Dame would be at Oklahoma, a 9 versus an 8, but they would be a 3.5-point favorite. Oregon right now would be a 4.5-point favorite over Alabama. That game again would be in Eugene. And they've got Ole Miss right now as a 3.5-point favorite over Miami. But again, that is subject to change because I don't think Miami would be getting in as an ACC conference champion.
Yeah.
The final point here is that they've got Tulane as the token G6 rep. And it looks like they are getting the nod because of their resume, which would be over Northwestern, Duke, and Memphis. Their strength of resume on the ESPN
Which, by
website.
the way, not nothing. Those are all, like, at the very least, decent power conference teams. And obviously, Memphis is a very good team in the American.
Their strength of, I guess they call it record on the ESPN website, which is essentially resume. Right now, 25th. North Texas is at 28. Interestingly enough, James Madison is at 24th. But given the fact that they ranked Tulane and not JMU at all, to me, it looks increasingly like the winner of the American gets in.
Yeah.
Though I think JMU would provide a better matchup for whoever they play because of the defense.
Mm-hmm.
It seems as though right now the committee is favoring whoever wins the American. So we'll see. That's going to work itself out here as well.
Yes. The only other thing I would add is, there are obviously a couple different ways to think about how these results and rankings should be evaluated. And there are going to be the one side of it is like you just look at the wins, you look at the ranked wins, you look at the record, and you look at the schedule and you say, okay, this was a tough schedule. They navigated this. They scheduled well. Like in the case of Oklahoma, right? Oklahoma's had a terrific schedule in terms of like there's a lot of quality teams on this schedule, and they beat Michigan. They scheduled a home and home and beat Michigan in Norman,
right.
And that's a quality feather in Oklahoma's cap that I think should be rewarded. But also, he says, with some of these matchups, you're like, okay, let's look at the teams that are ranked. Is Mizzou's best win a close loss to Alabama or Kansas, right? Is Tennessee's best win a close loss that they gacked away to Georgia? Maybe. Like, there's a lot of these teams that are ranked. Like, Illinois obviously beat, Illinois is ranked, what, like 23rd or something like that?
Right.
So USC lost to only ranked teams because Illinois is ranked. Illinois, in their losses, has lost by an average of about 30 points. Illinois has been fully not competitive in their losses, though they did beat USC. And so when you start looking at the resumes of the teams that are capital R ranked, what's separating those teams from teams like Cincinnati and Louisville and Arizona? And the answer is not a ton.
Yeah. Right.
Like, there's not a lot of impressive results when you look at like ASU has a huge win over Texas Tech, but like they've also had like some pretty disappointing results, obviously, with Sam Levitt's injury contributing, but they've won their last couple without Sam Levitt. I hesitate to eliminate too much context, and it's impossible because everybody evaluates context with, different margins, but I'm wary of doing too much surface in evaluating these resumes, and BCS was better. Continue.
Gotta get that one in there. All right, fair enough.
I'm seeing more. Every time I host a meeting, Ty, there are fewer and fewer seats. We're standing room only soon, Ty. We're standing room only.